Kirkwood, Missouri, February of 2008. Same situation, suspect that has been battling with the city for years, comes into a city council meeting and starts firing on city officials seated in chairs just like so. 5 city officials are killed, 2 police officers are killed. One is killed on the outside. This sergeant was leaving the police station and walking. Apparently there's probably a downtown in Kirkwood. He's walking to go get some dinner, and suspect greets him on the street, shoots and kills him, steals his firearm, and walks into the city council meeting and ends up killing another police officer inside there. The 2 council people, Kenneth Yost is the Department of Public Works Director, and then the mayor, Mike Swoboda. In this situation, the city attorney ends up, he's going after the city attorney actively. He's bypassing a lot of other people that were inside the city council chambers at the time, and the city attorney, who was the target, his target, ends up picking up a chair and throwing it at him and buying him enough time so he can escape out of a back door, which is kind of like what we're building up here as far as our response is going to go when we talk about that here in just a minute. So, you know, bad situation, a lot of innocent people that had nothing to do with this guy's problems were killed, but someone's response, someone's fight ended up, you know, kind of like stalling him for just a moment so police officers could respond, and they ended up taking care of what they needed to take care of in that situation. Switching gears again, this is the reason I bring this one up is Virginia Tech. It's one of those like Columbine-like things that's been highly publicized. Lots of people killed in this one. He goes through 2 halls on Virginia Tech's campus, ends up barricading doors behind him as he makes entry, and basically just going into these classrooms that were occupied by college students and indiscriminately just shooting him and killing him with, he had multiple high-powered rifles and pistols, and then, you know, ultimately he was killed. But one thing, the reason I show this video here is this Christina Anderson. She was a victim. She was shot 6 or 7 times, obviously not fatally because she's going to be speaking here on the video. I had the opportunity about 4 years ago to hear her talk at an active assailant conference that is put on locally here by one of my colleagues. Her experience that she'll share here in a minute in the video was very profound on the mental state or preparedness that she had to kind of fight through this. She's shot 6 times, you know, and everybody around her is dead. Everyone that she was just in class with is dead. But she has this mental fight that kind of perseveres in this situation here.
We heard the first shots at around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them and when he actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an axe being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door and she peered outside and she immediately shut the door and she said, "Call 911. And right then, he walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover, and people just kind of fell to the floor. And he immediately walked in shooting, and he went to the other side of the classroom and he started going down the rows. He went down each row very quickly, very purposefully. And I remember thinking, your turn is coming, you're going to get shot. I mean, I didn't realize there was an active shooter, but I knew something bad was happening. He came back to our classroom 3 times, and on the 3rd time, he killed himself in the front of the class. In between each time he was there, you could just hear people crying and coughing, and the cell phone started ringing. When he was in our class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't tell I was alive. Because as my stomach was hitting the chair, I was thinking, you know, he can see me breathing, he can see me alive, and that was very scary. I'll never forget when the SWAT team first broke in at around 9:51. The officer in the front of the classroom said, "We have a lot of blacks in here." And at the time, I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, but he meant triage codes. And I remember looking into the girl to my right and realizing, what black meant. He looked over me and he said, first he said yellow, and then he changed it immediately and he said red. And that's when I first started panicking. I still couldn't speak. I was shot 3 times, lying on my back, and I remember thinking, what do you see? Like, what can you see on me that I can't, that you would change me from yellow to red? He killed 12 people in my classroom, including our teacher. Your perspective on life and your attitude and your relationships definitely changes after you experience something like this. I noticed very quickly after the shooting, just my outlook on things, my behaviors, my attitudes, what I valued really shifted and has changed dramatically. You're much more grateful for small things in life. You look at people differently. You appreciate traffic a little bit more because at the end of the day, you get to be there. You get to experience traffic. You get to feel, the frustration of being alive, and that's something that we can never forget to not take for granted.
So in 2007, the civilian response to incidents like this was, lock down and hide, right? Stay in place, shelter in place, lock it down, barricade your doors, do what you can do. The warning signs were there for these people in these classrooms that something bad was going on. She tells you that in her little dissertation there. They could have gotten out, but their protocol in their school in Virginia Tech was to lock down and kind of like hide and shelter in place, which was like commonplace in the civilian world at that time. Now when we talk about what our responses evolved to, you'll see that probably wasn't the best situation, and it's unfortunate. We have to learn from history like this, from bad things, but we're where we're at today because of things like this. Now we're going to get into the response, and it's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple. This is a video put on by the LA County Sheriff's Department. It kind of drives all the concepts home. We'll break it down here just after this video.
A morning that began like any other turned tragic today when an employee opened fire on his supervisor and fellow coworkers.
Students, parents, teachers are asking why today, after a bloody rampage plunged this campus into tragedy.
Details are just coming in, but we're being told that a heavily armed gunman opened fire this evening at the mall food court behind me. There's no official word on any casualties yet, but one eyewitness reported seeing at least 6 people shot.
Active shooter. A gunman or gunmen killing or attempting to kill people in a confined, populated area.
You gotta get some sleep. You're looking like a vampire.
You sleep. You ain't got no babies at home keeping you up.
What the hell? Ah, Sam again.
We've tried. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to let you go.
Active shooter killings are a tragic, unpredictable reality, and one that's becoming more common.
Since 2006, the U.S. has averaged an active shooter event with 4 or more deaths every 2.9 months.
Even though the number of active shooter events has been increasing, your odds of being involved in one are still very slim. But just like fire drills and earthquake preparedness, making a plan in advance can make all the difference.
Yeah, but lizards live in tanks. I mean, it's probably fine.
If you do find yourself in the middle of a senseless attack, the why doesn't matter.
Hey buddy.
Hang on, something's happening.
What matters is surviving.
On average, 20 mass shootings take place in the U.S. every year.
Killers usually choose their victims at random. They look for easy targets. So the harder you are to see or to hit, the safer you are. When an attack starts, if you can find a way out of the location, do so.
Get out.
If you stay calm and think clearly, even in the middle of a life and death event, you improve your chances of making it out. Visualize your movements in advance.
What are we gonna do?
Look at me. I can get us out. Stay behind me. Stay here.
Use cover, something that will stop a bullet, and concealment, something that at least keeps you out of sight.
Attention South LA units, code 3 response needed regarding a 245 DSV 417. So at the Town Center shopping mall, suspects wearing a face mask, possible body armor.
Use any available means to get out, including emergency exits or windows. Most restaurants and retail locations will also have exits in the back, through kitchens or stock rooms. Even in the best cases, police are minutes, not seconds away. You must take action to protect yourself.
Okay, everybody stay calm. It's probably just a drill.
No, go back, go back.
Oh my god, come here.
If you can help others without putting yourself in unnecessary danger,
It's gonna be okay.
do so.
It's gonna be okay. What's your name?
Lori.
Molly? It's gonna be okay.
If you can't move safely to an exit, get to a room or a confined area you can lock down. Then secure the location.
Secure your location.
Oh my god.
There's somebody shooting.
Everybody stay calm. Remember how we train. Everybody get in this corner, away from the windows. Get the emergency bag from my desk. Help her.
Drywall won't stop a bullet, but there are steps to take to stay safe. Lock or barricade the doors, turn off the lights, move away from any windows, and silence your cell phone.
The other door doesn't lock. Move desks or anything, just block it.
A modern emergency bag can include a first aid kit, gloves, emergency plans for the building, and casualty cards to alert first responders to any wounded victims.
Most active shooter situations are over in 10 to 15 minutes.
Attention Lakeway units, code 3 is needed, red 245 GSV 417. It's going to be at Alexandria College. Multiple victims down.
Law enforcement's first responsibility when entering an active shooter situation is to stop the suspect, not to render aid to the victims. Medical teams will enter the scene as soon as the suspect is no longer a threat or is confirmed in another location. Silence any cell phones and remain quiet. Do not alert the shooter to your presence.
Sheriff's Department, is there anyone inside?
Red card.
Just hang tight. We'll be back to get you.
Defend yourself.
If you cannot escape the location and you can't shelter in place, you may have to defend yourself as a last resort. Almost anything can be turned into an improvised weapon. Look for something that can disrupt the shooter's ability to see, breathe, or control their weapon. When law enforcement arrives, they are going to be in a heightened state of readiness and awareness, looking for any aggressive movements. So keep your hands visible and follow any commands you are given.
He's a shooter.
What happened? What happened?
Oh, it's just a shooter. I just saw one shooter.
Especially in developing situations, engaging law enforcement, running toward them, reaching for them, even to thank them, could put people at risk.
Surviving an active shooter. For more information,
Thank you. Seriously.
visit active shooter.
All right, that video kind of sets up the main instructional point of the presentation today, which is really simple, like I said, and we'll kind of go through this and provide some examples for your specific area of work. But I'm also going to leave you with a little bit of homework assignment amongst your staff to kind of have a brainstorming meeting as to what you would do in your specific area of operation within the building if something like this were to happen. And you got to look at it from multiple angles too. Bad stuff coming through this door is different than somebody coming through a back door, which is easily breachable by someone that's determined, right? Just because we have a key-carded system in glass doors or glass and steel doors does not mean that someone can't get in that way if they're determined enough, just like right here. And also, people I use HR as an example because you're in a fishbowl there in the back of the room. You got those nice big picture windows there, and that's a breach point as well, right? And it can be something as blatant as a car driving through that intentionally, in order to breach the building and then cause bad stuff here. So you really got to think outside the box because these people are, right? The video games nowadays and all this kind of crap that's feeding our youth and causing them to think about these things and the grievances that they have in life, and God knows what's going on in their brains. Their imagination is limitless. So first and foremost, if you're able to get out of the building when bad things happen here, get out, right? If you're able to escape through a back door, out the front door, out a window, get out. That's the number one rule. Whether other people are saying stay or not, if you think it's a good idea to get out, then that's what you need to do. Leave your belongings behind. Purses, cell phones, car keys. We can get all that stuff later. Helping others escape if possible. Somebody that may not be as able-bodied as the next person. Maybe it's just the way that you think mentally that you're more of a helper or a doer than someone that's just trying to run past. You all know who you are. Preventing others from coming into the area. Bad things are going on in City Hall here, and people want to, it's just human nature to go look, right? Or now it's human nature to get your cell phone out and record it on Facebook Live. But, don't do that, right? Get out. You guys all have buttons for emergency, right, that you can press and get us coming. Obviously, provide that information to us the best you can. So staff having authority to leave the building. You guys are all adults here. This is more so when it comes to schools and their response. We talked about not worrying about your belongings and removing people or potential targets from the building, and then having a rally point. So pretty soon here we're going to be kind of rats in the cage in the back lot there, but there may be a rally point out there that you may want to determine as your HR meeting point, or your city administration meeting point, or your technology department meeting point. It may not be like a fire drill. We had a fire drill, last month or whatever. You may have to exit through the windows or exits that are not normally exits, right? I keep going back to HR, but that big window there is probably one of my exit points, but we need to figure out a way how we're going to breach that big window and then get ourselves out of there to our rally point. Some other people may have other difficult situations depending on where they are. City manager's office, and you guys are kind of like in the middle of it all. So there's multiple exits there, multiple options, but which is the right one? So that's something that you need to talk about with your staff. So it's perfectly acceptable to evacuate with bomb threats, with fire drills, with hazardous material exposures. Why wouldn't it be with an active assailant? If we can't run, or if we can't get out, then hiding is our next thing. Now, hiding is not just like, hide and seek hiding. It's barricading a door, using anything that you have in your office to barricade a door to make that the accessibility from that assailant that much harder. Okay. What history has kind of found over multiple active assailants is that they don't want to work too hard to get to potential targets. So if it's going to take them a little bit of work and they can go focus their attention and do more damage other easier places, then that's what they're going to do. So we talked about maybe moving your file cabinet from the corner of the office where there's no doors or windows to maybe closer to the door, because if something bad does happen and we need to shelter in place and hide, we can take that file cabinet, tip it up in front of the door. That'll make it that much more difficult in a barricade for that assailant to get to where you're hiding. In chairs and desks and whatever you can when you're stuck in there and blockading the door. Obviously silence your cell phone so it appears that nobody's in there, and then hide behind large objects and remaining quiet. Also, contacting authorities, pressing your emergency button and whatnot would help us greatly as far as knowing where you're at when it comes time to rescue. But have a plan within your domain and share that plan with your staff. So that's the thing that you guys need to do. Talk about it, like moving that file cabinet, or what can we use to barricade the door within our domain? In this room here, you got big desks, you got these, I guess they're ottomans for lack of, furniture knowledge, a bunch of chairs and so on and so forth, and, whatever we can manage to conjure up to barricade that door. And lastly is fight, right? Running is not feasible. All right, we're hiding and we barricaded a door, but that door is breached, or an alternative entry point is located by the assailant. Now it's time to fight. What do we have within our domain, within our work domain, to put up a fight, right? Chairs are always a good object to throw at people to buy yourself some time or to distract. Staplers. There has been schools out west that have had canned food drives, and it wasn't to feed the needy. It was to have cans of food on a bookshelf within their classroom so that the students could use to throw at an assailant if that were necessary. So just simple outside the box thinking like that within your office and with your staff, thinking about what you could use as a weapon. I'm assuming nobody is armed on this side of the house, right? We're coming armed, but you have to think outside the box of what you can arm yourselves with to put up that fight. Fire extinguishers, Yeti water bottles everyone carries around, just stupid stuff like that would buy you a little bit of time and a little bit of distraction. We're going to talk about here in a minute what's called the OODA loop, OODA. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. Every action, the human brain goes through this OODA loop, right? And it's used a lot in law enforcement, specifically in like SWAT tactics, on trying to distract people, or when we're making decisions in orienting ourselves towards threats and making decisions. So everything that you do, you go through this OODA loop, and sometimes you get stuck of, observing something and then orientating yourself, and then something else happens over here, and we're observing it, and we're orientating ourselves to that, and then when we decide and act. So that's on both sides of the fence, right? The victims are, going through that OODA loop, but the suspects are as well. And one way to distract that OODA loop is to throw in those distractions, throwing the stapler, throwing the chairs, and you kind of keep that assailant in that observe and orient, and they're not deciding and they're not taking action that's going to buy you that time to maybe rescue yourself or others. This is a little video that kind of describes that OODA loop that we're talking about.
You can't just get into a fight and figure out things on the fly. You can't just get into a fight without having preparation. And if you want to do better than the guy you're fighting, you gotta have a plan. The OODA loop, it's an acronym, stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. But really all the OODA loop is just a process to make decisions. It doesn't matter what the decision is, big or small, whether you think it's important or not. It's just how we as human beings interact with the world around us and make decisions. Everything you do is a process, man. And the OODA loop is the definition of that process. When you're competing for things that are about your livelihood, you're competing for things that matter, your objective should be to win. You gotta have a process. Everybody's doing the OODA loop. And it's the people that figure out what's going on around them, making decisions, and then acting on those decisions quicker. Those are the people that win. Anything that's a conflict. You got someone that comes out on top. I mean, losing doesn't mean that you're a failure. Losing doesn't mean that everything's over, and you learn from loss. But when you're in a conflict, or you're in a competition, there's a winner and a loser. The OODA loop is being used in literally every decision that you make. You can't do everything simultaneously. You're going through the process of figuring out what you're seeing, how to orient yourself to that. You're making a decision what to do, and you're acting on that decision. And you don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as you get to 2, there's feedbacks to 1. 1, 2, 3, there's feedbacks to 2 and 1. And so it's just this constant process of getting through all of them as quickly as you can. And if you do that faster than the guy you're fighting, you're gonna beat him. And it turns out that applies to everything in life.
So just a little chart just further describing that OODA loop. You observe the target acquisition, and then how you interrupt that is by creating distance, noise, and movement, right? If that assailant is already oriented, the stance, the grip, the breathing of the firearm or the rifle that person is using, putting them off balance by throwing that chair or tackling them or coming up with a plan to physically assault them to interrupt that. If they've already decided, they already have that sight picture on their weapon drawn down on you, what can we do to distract that and kind of knock them off there? If they have already acted and they're squeezing the trigger, then it's time to go on total defensive mode and actually engage. So just some of the actions and interactions within the OODA loop there. We'll talk about what happens when that button is pressed to get public safety over there to assist, what we're going to do, what to expect when we arrive. Obviously remain calm as best you can. I understand the circumstances, all of us do. Keep your hands visible. We know most of you, so we'll kind of be able to determine who's bad and who's good. But in the same sense, could an active assailant be sitting in this room right now? Right? We don't know which one of you is having that bad work experience or work day. And don't think I don't think about it over on that side either, right? I got 50-something cops over there that are all armed 24/7, and I'm just not so sure who's having a bad day or outside of what I observe. So it's unfortunate, but you have to think about it that way, right? Avoid pointing or yelling. It's just inevitable that you're going to do that, and then know that help for the injured is on the way. Obviously, your calls are going to be coming in. The emergency buttons are going to be pressed. Citizens in the lobby are going to be calling us as well. So we're going to be inundated with all these 911 calls or calls for help. We're all coming, right? So we're all coming from this side of the house. Guys from the road are coming. Guys from Ferndale and Southfield and Berkeley and Huntington Woods, they're all coming as well. So there's going to be an inundation of law enforcement here to assist in any active assailant situation, whether it happened in City Hall or it happened at Oak Park High School, okay? We're trained to link up with other officers within the county to form small units in order to seek the bad stuff and put an end to that bad stuff. with follow-up teams coming in as well to rescue any of the injured or extract any of the innocent victims that would remain. We move swiftly towards the target. What that means is if you're injured, let's say for sake of argument here, somebody's shot in the leg, we're going to step over you. You know, we might say, hello, Jamin. You know, I'm sorry about your leg, but I'm going to deal with that in a few minutes here, but I got a job to do. I'm going to step right over you. And you may have that sense of like, he's leaving me, you know? And other people may say like, oh my God, Jamin's over here bleeding to death, and this, you know, Lieutenant Taylor's stepping over him and going over here to HR or down to, you know, the far ends of the City Hall offices there. We're doing that for a purpose. We got to stop threat in order to do what we really need to do and, you know, put an end to the situation. And then obviously we'll be using all of our senses to gather intelligence as we move as to where this person may be or where the bad stuff may be. This next story was a story, I don't know, where does Joanne Purton, it's Channel 7 maybe, a few years ago. They came and filmed some of our training. It was in Southfield, some of our OakTac ASR training. Right at the beginning here, you'll see one of our own, Officer Rob Wickham, in the video. But this is the training that we're providing with our officers throughout the county here and how to deal with active shooters.
Dozens of Oakland County police agencies teamed up today to train for serious incidents involving an active shooter. 7 Action News reporter Naya Harden got an inside look at how these agencies work together to get the job done. Naya.
When an incident happens, the Oakland County Sheriff says seconds matter. That's why they're training together so they can get the job done quickly.
Bad guys ready?
We're ready.
8 hours in one day. 40 police agencies in Oakland County get together to train for the worst.
They can anticipate each other's moves. They have had the same training, and that backdrop is critical when seconds matter.
They've been doing it for the last 9 years. More than 2,500 officers go through a course by OakTac that takes them through several scenarios. So far, they say it's been successful.
Let's move!
There's always going to be unknowns and things that will surprise you in any situation, but you prepare as best you can, and I think that's what has been done with all these chiefs and directors and now fire service being brought in on a regular basis. That makes us better prepared.
In the last 2 years, fire departments in Oakland County have participated in the training, something they say is a change in culture.
We're evolving with the times, and that includes an evolution in our tactics.
Michael Crum with Oakland County University says first responders and officers need to know they can count on each other.
We have over 20,000 students. We have a lot of buildings. A lot of them are open to the public, and we're a little sensitive at the higher education about what may happen at our universities. So this makes us feel better that we have all these assets that can come from the county and they can help us.
This training is done every year. The next time they'll do it is next spring. Naya Harden, 7 Action News.